asking powerful questions. What and why are powerful questions so important? Albert Einstein once said that if I had an hour to solve a problem and my life depended on the solution, I would spend the first 55 minutes determining the proper questions to ask, because if I know the right question, I'll be able to solve the problem in less than 5 minutes. You see, there is a problem in the way that, well, not a problem, many problems, in the way that we are being brought. When we are young, we are not rewarded for asking the right questions. We are rewarded for answering the right answers, for giving the right answers. And what it has done for our brains is that it has conditioned us to only answer stuff. And we are then no longer comfortable with just asking a question and learning how to ask the question in a more powerful way. So today, what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be talking about a powerful question. What is it and why is it so important? A powerful questions have 3 criteria. The first criteria is that, very obviously, it is powerful and not forceful. What does powerful, not forceful mean? Forceful means that you require a lot of effort in order to move anything along. Something which is powerful is something that requires very little effort, but the effect of it is devastatingly effective. When a question is powerful, it means that it requires the smallest amount of effort to ask, but the answer is extremely powerful and extremely enlightening. And at the same time, it is also the kind of question where people are willing to answer. It doesn't cost them too much effort. They don't have to deal with too much resistance within themselves in order to answer the question. And notice that I use the word willing over here, because it may not necessarily be something easy to answer. But for as long as someone is willing to answer, that changes the entire game. So the dynamics between these two, that something that people are willingly answering and something that reveals a lot about a particular situation, scenario, or a person, that when answered, makes life easier. These 3 elements here is what constitutes a powerful question. Here's the thing. A powerful question is a skill, and it is a skill that I think benefits many different areas of life in a way that most of us may not realize. There was once heard this quote: what makes a business great is not the answers they give, but the questions that they ask. A powerful question is better than the best answers. It helps you with sales, because whenever you are in an enrollment conversation, in order for you to seal the deal, you need to know, we need to know with clarity exactly why does an offer make perfect logical and emotional sense for the person who you're talking to. When you are doing negotiations, let's say you want to enter into collaborations, or if you want to go into a partnership, you are now settling the terms and conditions of the partnership. In order for you to seal the deal over there, what needs to happen is that you need to know the exact needs of the other person and your needs, and find a way that you guys can both get what you need without having to compromise. Negotiating is not haggling. And the lack of the ability to ask powerful questions in the context over here drags the negotiations on and on and on and on and on, to the point where both parties are just exhausted. But on the other hand, if you know how to ask powerful questions in negotiations, what's going to happen is that both parties will have much more significantly easier time to communicate with each other. Powerful questions are absolutely applicable in relationships too, because when you are learning, when you are able to ask from a space of wanting to understand rather than asking from a place of wanting to reply, at all times, at least one person is always listening. And that leads to more connection, that leads to more intimacy. And this does not apply to just romantic relationships. It applies to familial relationships, business relationships, coach-client relationships. It applies to all kinds of relationships. Powerful questions are especially helpful when you are running interviews and podcasts, because nobody wants to listen to an interview or a podcast where the interviewer is asking low-quality questions. They are there because the interviewer is asking sizzling questions, red-hot sizzling questions that people are dying to know, and they don't even know that they have been dying to know the answer to that question. It is useful, of course, in coaching, consulting, mentoring, and this is very obvious. But what I want to point out more is learning, your personal learning. Because when you are learning in a program or from a book, have you ever encountered situations where your mind goes blank, right? I have been through that. And what I've reflected on myself, what I've noticed within myself is that every time my mind goes blank, it went blank because there is something in there I didn't quite understand. And I was just trying to shoehorn myself to proceed. I'm trying to push myself, force myself to just go through the lessons or go through the program or go through the book without actually understanding what is it exactly that I had resistance about or doubts about, or what exactly did I not understand? So being able to just pause at the point where you start to feel a certain sense of resistance and ask yourself a few powerful questions is integral for someone's learning, for your learning, for my learning, for everyone's learning. It is powerful for getting information when you want to know a lot of information in a very short order. Being able to ask a question that reveals a lot, like a detective asking certain kinds of information that takes them to even more clues. It is especially powerful for engaging the market, because as you are going out there, you are talking to your market, you're going in various Facebook groups, you're hanging out in various Telegram groups, WhatsApp groups. If you know how to ask the right kind of questions that your market very willingly engage, and if you're able to ask the kind of questions where the moment they engage with you, the moment they answer to you, you're able to get all kinds of insights which you can then use for your copy, for your marketing efforts, for your campaign, for your messaging. That is extremely powerful. And finally, personal development too. This has been talked about for thousands of years. I'm referring to the practice of self-inquiry, to actually go inside and ask ourselves the difficult questions that we perhaps may not be so willing to ask. Nothing of the stuff that we learn on courses is going to mean anything unless we are willing to go inside of ourselves and ask ourselves the difficult self-critical questions. So personal development is also one of the areas where powerful questions helps. Now, there are various kinds of questions, and after doing a lot of self-reflection, I have identified 6 questions of light and dark. There are 6 types of questions that you can ask. On the left column, you have unproductive questions, questions which will lead to nowhere. On the right column, you will have productive questions, the light questions, questions which will actually get you somewhere. And I'm going to explain to you in a way that will help you understand why is a question unproductive and why is a question productive, even when they use the exact same words. Because it is really not the words that is being used, but the energy and the intention by which it was being said. And I will help you understand the distinction across all of these areas too. So let's start by the first one. The first one is a kind of question I call the airplane question. Examples of an airplane question are, why am I so slow? Why am I so stupid? Why am I such a loser? Why do I always self-sabotage my results? Why can't I get this done? Why do I keep having this repeating pattern? Why do I constantly get into bad relationships? And the intention behind an airplane question is to find fault, to lay blame. And by the way, the reason why I call it an airplane question is because all of the answers that can be drawn from this question is pretty much useless. Like, I can ask you, why can't I fly? Why can't humans fly? I want to fly, but I cannot fly. Why can't I fly? I can ask you that question. For sure. And then you can give me so many answers. Because Felix, you're not aerodynamic enough. Because Felix, you are a human. Because Felix, you are not a bird. Because Felix, you are this and you are that. You can give me 1 billion answers, but none of the answers will actually help. But if I can just ask, how can I fly? Right now I'm in Kuala Lumpur. I want to fly to Penang. How do I fly to Penang? Well, just go to the airport, take AirAsia, and you're flying to Penang. So that is where the airplane question comes from. When someone is coming from the intention to find fault or lay blame, it is an unproductive question. And the focus is internal. How do you know whether a question is an airplane question or a productive question? What is a feeling? How does one feel when they are asking that question? When someone is asking an airplane question, they are feeling fear. They are looking for something to hold on to. They are feeling guilt. They are feeling shame. They're feeling negative emotions. Because the belief is, if I can find out what is wrong, I can then fix it. They're not, even though this is what they're telling themselves, but the intention behind those thoughts is that they want to find, that's the cause of it. That's the cause. This is the problem. Why? This is the root cause of all my problems. And then the buck stops there. The flip side of an airplane question is a diagnosis question. Very similar line of thought, but very different energy. What causes this to keep happening? The intention is to find solution even though the wordings are the same. Why do I want this at the end of the day? A question to ask ourselves to elicit what is the primary motivation behind a venture. And there's something else which is also, why will this happen? This is what I want. Why will this happen? By going through the process, all of the reasons why something is happening gets uncovered. The focus is external. And there is a feeling of joyful curiosity because the belief is that there are more than one cause. We must see the big picture. They're not looking to blame something or find fault. They are looking to understand the full picture. If they do find the cause or the root cause, they don't have this smugness about them. They don't have this feeling of, yeah, that's it, I knew it. That is the whole reason why I knew it. This is why my life is terrible. They go like, oh yeah, cool, that's the problem. Let's do something about it. A spirit of curiosity, joyful curiosity. So that's the first one. The second one, lazy questions versus solution-based questions. A lazy question is a kind of question where someone is asking with the intention to do as little work as possible. They want to crowdsource the answer. They want the answer to be spoon-fed to them. How do I specifically get more leads? Help! What is the secret to success? Help! The focus is to get answers outside, because if it's not going to work, if there is no guarantee that it's going to work, there's no need to try. They're coming from a space of lethargy, very low energy. I have very little energy, I have very little time, I have very little emotional resources, right? If I'm going to fail, I'm not even going to try. Panicky, helpless, hopeless. The belief is that they cannot solve the problem. A savior has to appear, right? The answer is beyond them. They don't have any internal resources to be able to solve the problem. They don't even know what is the question to ask. And it is okay that they don't even know what is the question to ask. They're just going to ask to show that they are trying. But the solution-based question is very different. I've tried this and this, and the result that I got was this. But somehow I am stuck over here. And I think the reason is, the potential possible reason is number 1, number 2, and number 3. What do you guys think? How do I handle this? That means someone who is coming from a solution-based approach, they have already done the work before that, right? And the person who is asking a lazy question, they are putting a stop to their level of improvement. But someone who is asking a solution-based question did not put a stop. You will see them grow. You will see them improve every single time they ask questions. You will literally witness them asking better and better and better questions as they grow. These are the ones who actually build successful businesses, because they are taking responsibility of their own successes as well as their own failures. They are learning from it. They're being responsible. The focus that they are having is to get answers, period. They don't care whether the answer is coming from inside or outside, right? They don't care whether how fast or how slow the results come. All they care about is, can I do my best? I am just going to do my best no matter what. And so the feeling that they have is a sense of conviction. Like, they don't know what is the outcome. They don't know whether this is going to work or not. All they know is this is what they're going to do, no matter what. So these are the people who are fully committed to their success and to their business. And the belief is that they are fully capable of solving problems by themselves. And the only reason why they're asking is because they want to solve the problem faster. And this is not just a lip service, because there are a lot of people who say that they want to solve the problems faster. They are fully capable of solving problems by themselves. But the truth is, they are just wanting other people to spoon feed them. They want to show other people that they have done some work, but they're not really interested to do some work. So solution-based questions are people who ask from a space of they already are capable of solving the problems by themselves, but they want to solve it faster. The next question is very interesting. It is leading question versus a teaching question. Leading question, we see it all the time, especially with amateur salespeople, especially with amateur coaches, amateur teachers. The intention behind a leading question is to seek agreement, or to win the argument, or to prove a point, right? This and this is right, don't you think? Don't you think that this is the right way to go about it? What do you think you know about this? And they're coming from a space of focusing on personal need. They have a need to win the argument. They have a need to show that they know more than the other person. And the feeling of this is a certain sense of passive aggressiveness, of pride, of desire that they can win the argument. But at the same time, they must be politically right, because somehow, somewhere they have learned that they shouldn't be telling people, right? They shouldn't be telling people what to do. They have been taught, they've been conditioned that they should be diplomatic. So they hold themselves back from telling actually what they really want the other person to hear. And instead, they try to ask a question in a way that they can get only the kind of answers that they want. Any other answers that does not fit their exact semantics or that does not agree with them is a wrong answer. And they would then try other approach, right? They would then try to ask other questions so that you can give them the answer that they want. And they believe that they are right and the other person is wrong. That's when a leading question is used. A teaching question comes from a completely different way. Very similar wording. What is empathy to you? What is intuition to you? What do you think is happening over here? It is usually used by masters right? Someone who have had a lot of experience, not to lead someone somewhere, but to lead someone through the teacher's thought processes. Because the teacher have asked themselves this question and this question and this question and this question and this question, and the conclusion that they have is this. But they are not interested to get someone to come to this conclusion. They are only interested to see if the other person comes to this conclusion. They have this open curiosity about them. They're still leading as well. It's just that they're leading through a very different perspective. They want to see whether or not they can come to the same conclusion. They're open to the possibility that they are wrong. And if they are wrong, they're interested to know. The focus of a teaching question is on the other person's need. And more importantly, with consent. The master senses for the consent. If the master doesn't sense a consent or a willingness by the student, the master will not proceed. So he's coming from a place of compassion, of benevolence, of patience and generosity. For as long as he sees someone's willingness to proceed, even if they have to wait for a while, even they have to stay with them in a place of pain, they would do so, right? But if there is no consent, if the other person is perfectly fine, they would not proceed at all. So that's teaching questions. The next question is a trick versus quiz question. A trick question is asking someone a question that they have no way of knowing the answer to. I see some marketers do this a lot, right? They will open a conversation and they would test in various Facebook groups. They will ask, what do you guys think is the answer to this question? And when you go and answer this question, they would say things like, yeah, that's good as well, but that is not the answer that I'm looking for. Like, what the hell? They are using this to trick people into engaging with them even more. Again, it is from a personal need. It is not a client-centered need, it is a self-centered need. The intention behind it is to establish their authority, is to get engagement, is to establish their self-superiority. In other words, the focus is to put themselves on a pedestal. The feeling of that comes out as a result of a trick question is the sense of smugness, of pride, right? Feel good of doing it. Because the belief that they have inherently, right? Inherently, they have this belief, and the belief is that in order to help people, they must prove that they are better or / they are smarter / they know more stuff, and any answer that is not exactly the same as theirs is not true. Whereas a quiz question is asked to see what is the level of understanding someone has after the lesson has been taught to them, right? Is asked, you're asking someone a question. Let's say you have just done a topic on emotional healing, let's say, and you have just covered the importance of emotional healing. And then towards the end of the class, you are asked, why is it important to have emotional healing? And the students will answer, but the teacher will not feel a sense of smugness if the student get it wrong. The teacher would then feel, where could I have done better to explain it in a way that people can remember and enforce and understand. The intention behind a quiz question is to test the other person's knowledge of a subject or to reinforce learning. Another example of a quiz question, maybe there's not even a lesson, but someone could be coming to you and you want to gauge their level of understanding of a certain topic because you want to know where to fill the gap that they have. So then you would ask them a few quiz questions to see where they're at in terms of the topic. The focus is to put the recipient on a spotlight to produce a stimuli for growth because they want to cast the attention on the gaps that the person is having. And the feeling that someone would have is one of generosity, is one of patience, is one of curiosity. Curiosity because they want to know, like, where else can I do better? Where is this person at? I want to impart something to them right now. I'm not going to string them along. All right, I'm not going to string them along through a never-ending series of question and answers. I am not going to trick them in any way. I am just going to ask them, and whatever the answer is, I will see whether or not I'm relevant. The belief over there is that it is the duty of the teacher to ensure the competence of their students, right? So that is quiz question versus trick question. The second last type is intrusive versus info-seeking. So intrusive questions, think paparazzi or interrogator in a public space that asks too deep too soon. If somebody goes on a dating app and immediately beyond the first few questions, they start to ask some very deep and personal questions, then it's intrusive because there was no consent, there's no rapport. A great questioner establishes rapport before they ask questions. The intention of an intrusive question is to get facts to reveal whatever meaning that they already established about the person, to reinforce whatever existing theory that they already have. They are only asking the question to cherry pick facts, to cherry pick certain facts to validate their own narrative. It also shows up when, let's say you get a cold DM, they start to ask you things like, hey, how much are you making per month right now? In an attempt to draw out the gap without first asking for the consent, without establishing the rapport in a facilitated conversation in a group setting. Sometimes an amateur facilitator would ask someone in the crowd, are you open for feedback? What the hell is that person gonna say? No? Of course they're gonna say yes. They're gonna say yes, I'm open for feedback. They're not gonna say no. Can we ask more questions over here? Of course they're gonna say yes. So it is intrusive and it imposes a certain way, a certain feelings onto the person who is being asked that question. The focus again is external. They want to confirm the suspicion. It is also self-serving at the same time. And the feeling is one of desire, of suspicion. I suspect this person is like that. I'm gonna ask this question to validate my suspicion. Busybody. The belief, too many beliefs to count, various beliefs. An info-seeking question is, one example is a potential client asking details about a service to decide if they should join or not. The intention is not to busybody, but to get facts to accomplish a personal objective that does not take away from the other person. The focus is internal, right? It is still about getting the internal needs, but at the same time, they're not taking their internal needs by taking away from other people, by intruding in other people's business. The belief over there is that finding an information before deciding is being responsible. So someone who is intrusive, they have already made a conclusion, and they are asking questions in an attempt to validate their conclusions. Info seeking, they haven't yet made a conclusion. They are asking questions in order to make a conclusion. The last bit over here is pointless versus opener. Pointless questions are asking irrelevant questions at inappropriate times. And they are asking it because they are not comfortable with the silence, and they are asking something in order to fill the silence. The focus is on the self. They feel the need because they're feeling discomfort, they're feeling out of place, and they just want to make conversation. Belief over here is that whenever there's silence, it means that everybody is uncomfortable, when in fact it is they themselves who are uncomfortable, which is a form of projection. An opening question, it's a question, there cannot be an example over there, but because it's exactly the kind of questions that a pointed question would ask as well, but the intent over there is to help the other person feel comfortable with you. Some opening questions are, how are you? But they're not asking how are you for the sake of asking how are you. They're genuinely wanting to know. There is a certain energy of warmth and friendliness that comes about, and the focus is on the needs of the other person who they are talking to as opposed to the needs of themselves. There is no beliefs, no assumptions. At the end of the day, there are many different kinds of questions, more questions than I could cover over here, but I've chosen 6 different kinds of questions. The productive side and the unproductive side. There are too many questions to categorize, but there is something in common between the both of this. What is in common is very simple. Unproductive questions are questions which is forceful, questions which comes from this feeling. There's a feeling of negativity happening, or desire, or self-serving, self-centeredness. A productive question is client-focused, other people focused. You're focusing on the needs of other people, and the kind of questions which is solution-oriented and feel good. So that is the 6 different kinds of questions.